Today, I am here to tell you the 5 worst postseasons since 2010 in Major League Baseball. Why 2010? Because that's when I started watching. So, if you're down with that, let me break down my criteria. First, to be considered a bad postseason, you have little to no memorable moments. Second, a large majority of the series that were played were bad as well. And finally, there is an unsatisfying World Series winner. There's nothing worse than watching an entire season, then the postseason, and then getting a sour taste in your mouth when someone like Yankees, Red Sox, Dodgers, Cardinals win it for what feels like the millionth time. So with all that out of the way, this is Sean, and this is my top 5 worst MLB postseason. At number 5, I have the 2012 postseason. And those of you who know I'm a Giants fan might be wondering, why do I have this one on the list? Well, let's walk through it from the start. This was the first season ever with a 1-game wild card. And how did we kick this off? With one of the worst wild card games of all time. A 5-1 victory for the Baltimore Orioles. It was tied up until the 6th inning, and then Baltimore just ran away with the game. Wow, riveting stuff. Then the National League wild card, I'll give it credit, it was memorable, but not for anything good. This was the infamous infield fly game when umpire Sam Holbrook ended Chipper Jones' career, potentially, by calling this an infield fly. And instead of having bases loaded with 1 out, it was now 2, and fans were not happy. There was trash on the field, like a 20-minute delay. They even had to get on the PA system to say the Braves would forfeit if the umpires continued to feel unsafe. Freddie Gonzalez ended up putting this game under protest, but of course the MLB said, no. So yeah, those were the stinky wildcard games. But hey, here's where I'll be fair. The division series was the peak of this postseason. Giants reverse swept the Reds. The Cardinals came back in Game 5 down to their final strike. The A's and the Tigers had a great back-and-forth series. And Raul Ibanez became a Yankee postseason legend. But when your peak is in the division series, it's a bad postseason. While the NLCS went to 7 games, the ALCS was atrocious. The Tigers swept the Yankees, beat them in 12 innings, and after that extra inning affair, the Yankees pretty much laid down and died. Never had higher than a 55% win probability after the bottom of the 11th inning. And I'm going to be using win probability a lot throughout this video, so let me break it down real quick. If you want the full explanation for how the stats work, go here. But in simple terms, this is the percent chance a certain team has to move on to the next round throughout the series. And as you can see, Tigers just ran away with it. I remember there being talk, did the Tigers have too much time now before the World Series, considering the other series went 7 games? But everyone was pretty confident that they would make quick work of the Giants, because throughout the season, the 2012 Tigers were one of the greatest teams that I had ever seen, even to this day. I mean, crap, look at this graphic they played before Game 1 of the World Series. 2 check marks for pitching. But instead of them winning it all, the Giants swept the Tigers. And if you weren't a Giants fan, this was a very boring series. Not even a satisfying winner, and a team who had won it within the last 2 years. So while I was happy as can be, in the eyes of other fans, this one sucked. On to number 4. And here we have the 2021 postseason. And a little bit of a spoiler alert, this is actually the most recent one on my list. Here's why. At the start, we had Yankees versus Red Sox in a wild card game. Something that sounds like Rob Manfred's dream on a silver platter. But man, I don't know. I don't even remember this one. And for good reason. Garrett Cole gave up 3 runs within the first 3 innings, and the Red Sox never looked back. They won the game. Talk about a bad game. After the first inning, the Yankees never had a higher than a 30% chance to win. Complete snooze fest. And if you're like me and do not enjoy watching Xander Bogaerts, Rafael Devers, and the kids from the Sandlot make a postseason run, I have bad news for you, because they beat the Rays in the next round. In a horrible series. Sure, there was a Vasquez walk-off home run, but these are 2 boring teams no one wants to see play each other. And I kind of feel bad calling this one horrible, because the other American League Division Series was even worse. The Astros beat the White Sox in 4 games, and I'm just gonna let the win probability chart for this one speak for itself. Because man, Chicago never stood a chance. And this one's even sadder in hindsight, considering we thought this White Sox team, they were gonna be back for a long time. This may have been their last chance right here. And not only did they blow it, but it was boring. Nice job, Tony La Russa. If you thought MLB fumbled with Yankees versus Red Sox, oh, let me tell you, Giants versus Dodgers also happened in this postseason. They hadn't faced each other in forever. It went all the way to 5 games. And this series ended on a check swing call. If it's this close, you have to let the series end at the plate, not with the umpire. Jesus Christ. So here we are, an ALCS with 2 teams nobody wanted to see. The Houston Astros, who were known cheaters at this point, coming back for their 50th ALCS in a row against the already talked about Boston Red Sox. And this one unfortunately went 6 games. They dragged it out, and everybody's favorite Astros moved on to the World Series. Again. I don't even have to talk about what happened in this series. Do you even care? I sure as hell don't. Then, in the NLCS, even though this one also went 6 games, the Dodgers' highest win probability was 52% in the top of the 4th inning of Game 1. On one side, you have a series with 2 boring teams, and on the other side, you have a boring 6-game series. So it only makes sense that the Astros and the Braves came together to have a very boring World Series. I'm happy the Astros didn't win. It was nice to have the Braves win, who have not won in a long time. Nice young core. But man, besides Jorge Soler putting a ball over the train tracks, I don't remember anything from this series. And for that reason, it's my number 4. At number 3, I have the 2013 postseason. And this one had boring teams all around, in my opinion. And you know, if you're like a Cardinals or Red Sox fan and you're offended by this, I actually am sorry. But I just don't care for your teams. And they were in the World Series this year. So how did we get there? Well, it started with a really boring wild card game where the Rays beat the Indians 4-0. Cleveland became the first team to ever be eliminated from the playoffs without scoring a run. Nice job. And the National League wild card game was one of the greatest wild card games of all time. I'll give it credit. That Johnny Cueto moment when the fans were chanting his name, he dropped the ball and then gave up a home run is a legendary sequence. But unfortunately for the 2013 postseason, this may have been its peak. In the wild card game, on to the ALDS. Red Sox versus the Rays, and they had a snooze fest 4-game ALDS series. The Rays never had more than a 50% chance to win after the 4th inning of Game 1. Yuck. And on the National League side of the division series, Atlanta got outclassed by the Dodgers in an uneventful 4-game series. We go on to the ALCS between the boring Boston Red Sox and the Detroit Tigers, who are 1 year removed from getting shockingly swept in the World Series. They want to go back. It would be exciting to see them back, in my opinion. But unfortunately for baseball fans, a Game 2 bases loaded grand slam by David Ortiz pretty much ended this core Tigers team's chances at the World Series. They were never back in this capacity, have not been since. I mean, after Game 2, everyone just knew Red Sox were going to win this series. It was done. And the NLCS between the Cardinals and the Dodgers was never close. The Dodgers started Game 2 with a 34% chance to win the series. So 2 long championship series with 2 winners who have won it recently. And I will say it was a decent World Series. You had a game end with a pickoff, and there was the weird runners interference thing. But Red Sox and Cardinals are not compelling to me. I didn't really care if either of them won. I was kind of checked out. And for that reason, I have this one here. At number 2, I have the 2018 postseason. And if you're a Red Sox fan and you haven't turned the video off by now, I love you. Thank you for sticking around. I'm so sorry. But this one was horrible. In the wild card series, we had a fun young Oakland team facing New York, and the game was pretty much over after the 1st inning. A home run from Judge off Liam Hendricks, the opener, ended this one for the A's. Very sad to see. So Yankees move on to play the Red Sox in the ALDS. And once again, even though it was Yankees-Red Sox, this one was really boring. Highest win expectancy the Yankees had in this whole series was in the 1st inning of Game 3 at 53%. Momentum seemed to be going the Red Sox way the entire series. It was bad. Then in the other American League Division series, Cleveland never stood a chance against the Astros. They got swept. scoring a total of 5 runs over 3 games. Meanwhile, the Astros scored 21 runs. On the National League side, another sweep, the Brewers beat the Rockies. Game 1 went 10 innings, and after the Rockies lost, they never had higher than a 31% win probability. This was due to the Rockies not scoring a single run after Game 1. And just to make it 4 for 4 bad division series, the Dodgers beat the Braves in 4 games. The Braves' highest win expectancy was 50% at first pitch of Game 1. What are we doing here? ALCS, Red Sox versus Astros. Astros had just won the World Series. They were exciting. They were upstart. They won Game 1, but the Red Sox, as they usually do, made sure to take any excitement out of the playoffs. They went on to win 4 straight to go to the World Series. The NLCS was the Brewers versus the Dodgers, and thank God for this series. This was the only good one of the playoffs. It went 7 games. There were pitchers hitting home runs. The win expectancy chart is insane for this one. Brewers were at 78% chance to win in the 6th inning of Game 2, and then the Dodgers came all the way back. Yasiel Puig hit a 3-run homer in the 6th inning of Game 7, and this jumped the Dodgers' win probability by 11%, the highest in the entire 7-game series. But what did that get us? A Dodgers-Red Sox World Series? Oh, yes, I know. The Dodgers had not won it in a very long time, but I'm a Giants fan. Come on. No part of me wanted to see them win. So that leaves me to root for the Red Sox. No, thank you. This is around the time I stopped watching baseball as much, and part of me blames this series and the Giants for being so bad. But this World Series only had one memorable game, that 18-inning game that the Dodgers won. But other than that, the Red Sox won all the other games. It only went 5 games. So the most memorable game of the World Series was the one that the losing team won. That's horrible. Steve Pearce was the MVP. Who? That's Edgar Renteria territory. And I don't mean that in a good way. Boring winner again with the Red Sox. I think a lot of baseball fans would have rather seen the Dodgers. But there is one postseason that I consider worse than this one. But before we talk about that, if you are enjoying this video, please consider hitting the subscribe button and liking this video and leaving a comment of your favorite part. I read every single comment. I love taking feedback from my fans. And if you disagree with every single thing that I'm saying, that's okay. I want to hear it. But here we are at number 1. I have the 2020 postseason. And a lot of you may have seen this one coming from a mile away, or maybe from the thumbnail. But man, we all know 2020 sucked. And one of the highlights of that year for me was finding out there was going to be an MLB season after all. It was going to be 60 games, and I remember feeling so happy. Baseball was going to be back. I was itching for anything. I was watching Korean baseball. I mean, tell me down below, what kind of sports were you watching during COVID before American sports started making a comeback? It was some weird stuff. So I'm happy the season's back. But on the negative side, there's no fans. Nothing MLB could have really done about that, but it's still something that happened. The fake crowd noise sounded bad, the empty seats were a horrible look, and only 60 games were played. These playoffs were not looked at in the highest regard, but everyone was so excited for them just because it'd been so long. So, with all eyes on the sport, what happened? The first postseason since the Astros scandal broke. How did MLB and Rob Manfred answer the call? Well, they said not only are there 60 games, but more teams than ever before are going to make the playoffs. More than half the league made the playoffs. So, can you guess, were these good series that were being had with teams who just kind of played okay over a 60-game stretch? Some teams who weren't even above 500. It was absolutely horrible. And to make matters worse, not only are there 4 wild card series now in each league, it's not even 1 game. It's a 3-game series. So let's go through these horrible series. Rapid fire. Blue Jays get destroyed. Start the series with a 45% win probability, and that's as high as it got. Houston swept Minnesota. Sergio Romo with some absolutely disgusting performances in this series. Twins fans couldn't even get hit a bone in 2020. Jesus. Yankees played Cleveland. They thumped them. Win probability chart tells it all. The Brewers featuring a lineup with Ryan Healy hitting cleanup in 2020, who he himself did not even know why he was hitting that high, got massacred by the eventual winner, the Dodgers. The Reds were infamously allergic to runs in this series. Went 13 innings in game 1, never scored. Game 2, never scored. The A's and the White Sox, they had a good series, but this is sad. Just before they had sold out the Coliseum in 2019. Now here they are winning their first playoff series since 2006 in front of no fans. So sad. Marlins beat the Cubs in a snoozer series. There was one big home run. Everyone was like, wait, it would be kind of weird if the Marlins won, and then they won the series. That was kind of it. That's 2 good series out of 8. Horrible. We go on to the ALDS, and Oakland never stood a chance after the 6th inning. Houston beat them, went back to the ALCS for the 100th year in a row. Dodgers, Padres. Padres felt like the team of 2020. Everyone was excited to see them, and just an atrocious performance against the Dodgers. Here's the nasty win probability chart. Dodgers scored 23 runs compared to the Padres' 9. And the other division series was very bad as well. Braves swept the Marlins, and nobody really thought the Marlins stood a chance. Their peak was the bottom of the 3rd inning with a 60% chance to win the series, but that was game 1. By the start of game 3, they had a 14% chance it was over. And if that wasn't enough bad playoff series for you, you must not be familiar with the 2020 ALCS. This game was played in front of 0 fans, with the Astros, who are there literally every year, and the Rays, who no one cares about, in the neutral site of San Diego. And this went 7 games, and it was agonizing. The Rays went up 3-0 on the Astros. They had a 93% chance to win the series at the start of Game 4, but then they lost Game 4. But everyone knew the Rays were going to win anyway. And then they lost Game 5, but everyone knew the Rays were going to win anyway. And then they lost Game 6. And I think a lot of people could have seen the Astros coming back and making it to the World Series. That would have been the exciting outcome, but not really, because it's the Astros going back to the World Series immediately after they got caught for cheating. Nobody wanted to see this, and the Rays finally won. Yay. So we have a World Series now between the Dodgers and the Rays at another neutral site. The new stadium in Texas, which was supposed to open this year, hosting a World Series game before it's even hosted its team with fans. And I think the league was rooting for the Rays against the Dodgers, but you had Kevin Cash taking out Blake Snell. Many fans thought too early, and after Game 3, this series was over. There was like one memorable moment, the Rays walking it off. Once again, the team who did not win the series has the memorable moment, and Robert Manfred sounded drunk at the speech after. That was the peak of the postseason.
Accomplishment for our players to get the season completed, but obviously we're concerned when any of our players test positive.
The Dodgers won a World Series that no team really won the distinction of winning. Don't get me wrong, everyone was fighting hard for this. I would have loved it if the Giants won, but it was kind of known that whoever would win the 2020 World Series, some people would view that with an asterisk next to it, but I'll leave it up to you to decide. And with that, here's to hoping that 2024 has a great postseason. I'll see you all next time.